Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of an Australian horror film released in the year 2005, directed by Brett Leonard, and this film is called Feed. And the story to Feed is as follows. While policing the underbelly of the internet, Philip, a hotshot cybercrime investigator, finds a suspicious website for feeders and gainers, the weird world of fat erotica, a sexual subculture where fat-admiring men, known as feeders, seek out obese women, known as gainers. But one of these men may have been going too far, feeding his charges to death and publishing the details online. Philip tracks him to Toledo, Ohio, and goes there determined to uncover the sinister underworld. What he discovers may cost him his life or his sanity. So what we have, there's a website going around on the internet in this film called Feeders and Gainers. Basically, these men who are sexually aroused by fat women who are feeding these women to death. So this gets the attention of a police officer in Australia who is a cybercrime investigator, and he wants to determine whether or not this website is authentic. So he comes to the conclusion that it is real, and in fact the guy running this website's a serial killer because he's been actually killing a lot of other women, and he's placing bets on how long they will survive. So Philip, this police officer, he tracks the IP address, and this guy does a very good job at hiding who he is, so that also creates suspicion. But he finally tracks him down to Toledo, Ohio. Now, for some reason, Philip, who's an Australian police officer, travels over to America to put a stop to this sinister underworld. Now, I don't really understand that. I don't know why he couldn't have notified the American authorities. That would have made more sense. But for the film, he goes over to America in the hope that he can save the life of this fat woman who was on this particular webcam streaming, named Deirdre, and at the same time put an end to this maniac's ideas. So if you want to know how the movie unfolds, or whether or not Philip is successful in stopping this madman and saving the life of Deirdre, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself. So hopefully I've done a good enough job gaining enough curiosity for you to go out there and see this movie for yourself. Now, my thoughts on the film. This one came with high expectations, once again a lot of hype surrounding it, and once again it is a victim of it being overhyped. This was nowhere near the film that I actually thought it would be. It comes with massive problems, but I will, to start with, go through the positives, because thankfully there are a few positives, and the biggest positive is the cinematography once again. I actually felt that it had a little bit of Baz Luhrmann thrown in there in a very sinister sort of disturbing way, in that very, very bright colours, and it almost feels like you're in a dream. It's a surreal world. There is a little bit of Terry Gilliam thrown in there, and I actually thought it was just really bizarre and a really surreal film. So fans of something different will get something out of this movie. The way it's been shot, there's a lot of blue colouring in one sort of scene, and then the next scene it's very yellow colouring. So it's kind of like you're stepping out of the realms of reality, which was a really pleasant experience because it's not often that films like this come along. And it also creates a very disturbing scenario environment when these disturbing scenes actually happen. Now the other one, the overall idea is very, very disgusting. It centers around, overeating, very sloppy sort of characters, and very obese characters. So I actually thought, the way that this guy was feeding these women was disgusting. There's a lot of vomit, there's a lot of dribbling and all that kind of yucky stuff. Although I will say it's nowhere near as disgusting as a lot of people will make it out to be. Now, a lot of people have been saying this is one of the sickest films they've ever seen. I wouldn't go that far. I would say the overall idea is more psychological than it is face value. So just be careful. If you're wanting something that's going to be extreme to the max, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed by this one. I thought it was going to be a little bit more intense and extreme. But having said that, it's definitely more extreme than your average film going out there. So if you're only a beginner in extreme, then this one I would say go for. But if you're a hardcore sort of extreme fan, this one will be very easy to get through. Now the music was very dull and subtle. I actually thought it contributed to it very, very well. And I actually thought the mood for the film was very well done. So the director had a lot of talent behind the camera. However, having said those positives, here comes the big negative. The movie is set in two countries, Australia and America. But the whole film is shot in Australia, and it's obvious that it's been shot in Australia. So there is absolutely no realism to the actual story. Now, also, another big insulting thing to Australians was the fact that this director has got some of the best-known Australian actors and forced them to use an American accent. David Field being one of note. Now, David Field has the most Australian accent. You know, he's a dinky-die Australian, as we call them here. You know, you can't get much more Australian than this guy. Yet, he comes across as an American priest. And I saw that, and I just thought that was absolutely insulting to Australians. I thought, if we're not good enough to, you know, make a movie, and if we're not good enough with our Australian accents, why cast an Australian to be an American? Why not cast Americans? If it was going to be set the majority of the film in America, why not have shot the movie in America? I just don't understand that. A lot of people believe that it has to be American to sell, so you're going to just, you know, give Australians the backhand and say this is America. So it just really didn't, you know, it wasn't acceptable for me. It just took me completely out of it, and I thought it was disrespectful to Australians, this movie. It was just, it had the grounds to be a great film. I thought it would have been even better if it was set in Australia with Australian accents, because you can pick a fake American accent from a mile away. And although David Field is a fantastic actor, you could tell this guy was Australian because his accent was absolutely ridiculous. And the same with the main character, Michael, who is the lead villain. His accent was absolutely ridiculous as well. Now, I don't know why you would get an Australian police officer to go over to America to investigate an American crime. That really didn't seem, you know, sensible to me. Why not just alert the American authorities, and they have their jurisdiction on their property? So, you know, that really didn't, you know, come across very well at all. The editing, although the cinematography was good, the editing was very jump-starty. It kind of had a scene where it would say present date, and then it'll cut to another scene saying 6 hours later, then it'll cut to another scene saying 1 month later. So it didn't have very good continuity at all. And I thought that, you know, once again, that took me out of it as well. So a lot of things to take, you know, a lot of negatives, unfortunately, to take out of this film. Far more negatives than positives. In the end, yes, it was a disturbing film, but I actually felt that it was a complete mess. So unfortunately, I'm only going to give this one 1.5 out of 5. I had massive expectations for it, but it really didn't deliver because, one, it didn't have respect for Australia, and two, I just thought it was a little bit choppy. So, yeah, definitely one of the more disappointing films that I've seen in a while. So that is my review of Feed. Definitely not coming recommended. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, take care of yourselves, keep watching movies. I'll see you later. Bye.